and not for what? For the assessment. Now the funny part is, in Europe and in the States, if you ask students why they go to the school, 60% roughly would say for the assessment or to continue my education. But for the Middle East, the number is 90%. Guys, 90% of your students go to the school to sit the test. And that's what Alistair was saying about, and that's what Adele was saying about, that everybody is just here to pass the test, right? What it leads us to the next problem. We prioritize quality over quantity. So they believe when they learn more, when they memorize more, they will actually pass the test better. And as a result, we have another way. Our Lord is less. Okay? And something very specific for the Middle East, parental involvement and traditional approaches. Do you feel like parents are everywhere? They know better than you do. They are teachers, they are doctors, they know everything, right? At the same time, unfortunately, we are dealing with traditional approach, and that is rote learning and drill-based learning. So they believe that the way they started 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago is the only correct way. And whatever is new is not what exactly should be done. And of course, regarding Saudi Arabia, very specifically, we are talking about globalization versus curriculum suitability and cultural sensitivity, and we are talking about non-native speakers. Circling back to my first question, those who said that English is the most important subject in K-3, are you non-native speakers or not? Because that's usually the answer that you're getting in the countries where English is the second language or the third language. Now, what was in common with all those problems? Attention and retention. And that's the direct connection. So attention drives retention. Getting back to the drawing board, there are a number of other researchers that Regal has done before writing the curriculums. So, Latifi guys, you were discussing that yesterday, that Microsoft did the research from 2010 up to 2015, and the attention span is declining. So nowadays, we have the attention span of a student that is less than the attention span of the golden fish. Nice. Next thing, we're talking about focused attention. John Medina Brain Rules and NCBI, don't confuse with FBI. NCBI is the National Center for Biotechnological Information. They studied brain for a long time, and what they realized is that our brain can focus for 10 minutes. After that, we go into the recess. The brain goes into the recess after 10 minutes. So right now I have 3 more minutes before your brain will reset. And whatever you tell them within this reset time will not stay there. It will just go over their head. So whenever you learn the lesson, you need to remember one thing. 10 minutes, then there is a reset time. And what the COVID situation and informational technology center brought us to is that yes, they are multifunctional human beings. Yes, they love to function and do a lot of things, but that leads in its own turn to fragmented attention. And fragmented attention needs short breaks for enhanced learning. So in a nutshell, what we have the new generation that has a completely different approach, circling back to everything that has been done and said. Now, these are 2 more researchers, well actually these are 200 more researchers, which I'll definitely not go about. But there is one very interesting thing that I want everybody to think about. Dopamine and cortisol. How do this thing connect to education? Dopamine and cortisol levels. So probably you remember, think about, did you have in the school, did you have a teacher that you really were afraid of? Did you have this one teacher? You dreaded this teacher. You were shaking. Now, do you still remember the smell of the perfume of the teacher, the surrounding in the class, what she wore or he? You definitely do that because you were high on cortisol. But do you remember the subject? Do you remember anything from that lesson? Probably bits and pieces, but nothing else. Now, dopamine is something that gives you energy, and dopamine is connected to oxytocin. So if you're happy, you will remember that forever. Now, another way, you have a brain that functions for 10 minutes, and if the brain was happy at that moment, or the brain was high on oxytocin level, that would stay with you forever. Think about the day in school when you really laughed and you had fun, you will still recall the day when you were afraid of something, you would remember the details, but you would not remember the information. And there are lots of other researchers, and that's actually what we were doing at Regal when we were writing the curriculum. So, let's have a look what is the recipe that we prepared based on all these researches. Bite-sized learning. Hands up who have heard about bite-sized learning. It's not a new term. Something vaguely, something familiar. Alright, the idea of bite-sized learning. You have 5 to 10 minutes to upload information in the brain of your student. That's the brain capacity. After that, brain goes into the reset. That's where you introduce some activity. Technically, by 10 minutes over, so 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Please, everybody, who taught in the primary school? 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. 1, 2, 3, eyes on you. Okay? That was brain reset, 10 minutes, let's move on. So, focused content. We need to make the content easy to understand. The times when you needed the Oxford Dictionary or Merriam-Webster Dictionary just to understand what the page is about is gone. If it's difficult, they will not read it. If they will not read it, they will ask Google to explain that to them. Flexibility and accessibility. We do have mixed ability students, and every year the mixed ability number is getting higher and higher. ADHD students. Before that, it was just we were diagnosing them with behavioral disorders. Now we know that ADHD. You cannot say sit down for a kid with an ADHD. You have roughly 40% in the class, sometimes it comes to 50. Most of them are boys, because boys are not designed to sit. Okay? You have behavioral disorders, you have dyslexic students, you have so many of them. Everybody's in the same class. If you have 5 to 10 minutes focused activity, everybody is inclusive, because brain functions for 10 minutes max. Moving further away, interactive elements. If it's interesting for them, if it includes 3D, video, audio, dancing, running around, screaming, shouting, they would be interesting. If it's sitting and writing, forget about it, you lose that. And what are the benefits from the school point of view? Of course, if you have everybody is engaged and interested, you will have a good retention and recall. And based on that, you will also have satisfaction and internal assessment drive. Now, let me reset your brain again. Have a look. That is an example of the page. As I said, we do have parents and we do have traditional teachers who need a traditional approach. So here are your objectives of the lesson and 2 serious questions. So what are the organs and stuff like that? On the same way, let's set you high on dopamine before we start the lesson. What's in common between gorilla and the bee? Guys, ladies, what's in common between gorilla and the bee? Any ideas? What's in common between gorilla and the bee? They're living things, okay. That's what's in common between gorilla and the bee. That goes in always very good. What else? What else? Mr. Lewis, what's in common between the two and the bee? Yes. There it is. So we are all from that system and we should have memorized the thing and sound very clever. Yes? Now think about your students, what they would say. They live in tribe, perfect. What else? What they would say? They both can attack humans. Yes. Yes, what else? What else they would say? Students, think about your kids, what they would say. They love sweets, they live in the forest, they live in the jungle. There are lots of cartoons about them. I'm not very familiar with the modern kids culture, but they will find ways to explain what's in common between them. Will there be any wrong answer in that class? Will there be any wrong answer? There will be not a single answer wrong. Whatever they say will be right. And that's how you're setting them high on dopamine level. Think about you. Did you perk up? Did you wake up now? Do you feel happy? Yes. So that's how you set the level of the class. Next, you prepare the class and we are ready to study. That's grade 2. So here you can see we have activity already sectioned. You start with text. Okay? You don't need to explain the text in a way that everybody will die trying to remember that. to the activity. Activity is in a separate book, so they need to move. Once they move, you again reset their brain. You go next. Any video, anything is available for you. You as the teacher know what exactly your students need. Do they need a video at that particular moment? Do they need a 3D? If they don't want to look at the picture, they can open the 3D, they can see the 3D. If you think that if you have boys in ADHD class, you need a song where they will run around and dance. Hands, toys, I don't remember that song, sorry, long time ago. So that is the idea of how you teach. Now, you would say, okay, that was good for the beginning, for the primary school. What about secondary school? That's an example of grade 7 science book. Okay? Same division. Again, you are talking about section. Here is your section, here is the image, because image is a powerful thing. Here is the 3D that you can show to them, because again, you as a teacher, you know your class. Do they need a video or do they need a 3D? Do they like listening to your voice? If they don't like your voice, okay, forget about it. Open for them the video of any famous influencer talking about the same thing, okay? Next thing. Do we want to do an experiment? If we want to do the experiment, we can do that. If I think that's whole science department disappeared, as they say, you're in the class where they hate experimentation, don't do the experimentation. Show them the video of the experiment being done. Moving further away, my favorite subject, mathematics. How many of you hated mathematics in school? Hang on. How many of you hated mathematics in school? Come on. There's no teachers here, there are no bosses. The recording is of me, so your hands will not be on the recording. Okay, why we hated mathematics? How they taught us. Here is the list, you memorize it. Here are 300 activities, you do them. Did you get it? No, you didn't. 300 activities more. Did you get it? No, you student. Okay? Sounds familiar. What it was actually happening, we were setting you law on dopamine level. The negotiation strategy. If you want the parent to agree to anything, and that's the former academic manager talking, set them high, set them on dopamine depletion. What's dopamine depletion? You keep on sounding like a lullaby and you ask a lot of questions. And you repeat again the same and the same and the same. At this moment you want to kill them. If you talk like that for 5 minutes, they would agree. So, what you actually do is, you have it as fun activity. Then, you go into another fun activity. And you finalize with more fun activities where you play Mario Mathematics, Diametic, you have to look eye to eye on that. The more games you have with kids, the better that is. Alright? Let's think what it gives us in the long term. If the students are happy, are the teachers happy? Of course, okay? If the teachers are happy, are the parents happy? Yes, because students and parents work well together. Next, if the engagement improves, what it will give us in its own term? Internal assessment. And obviously internal assessment will lead to national assessment. And we finish up with overall development. So what is required in the school? Then don't worry, I have my phone here. So what is required in the school? We require a curriculum, okay? And we require something that prepares us for the future. But what is still missing in the school? You can have the best thing over, but if your teachers and parents are not trained to do that, you will still be missing. So whatever the combination of requirements is, we still need to train the teachers and parents. We as a company will do that. We provide, for example, together with parents, teaching and teacher training. We will do that. So that's fine. Should I have 1 minute? Questions? I'm sure there are questions. No? Okay, that's my WhatsApp. These are the details. If you want to continue discussion, feel free. Okay, I'm on American time, so in 24 hours, working around the clock. And then everybody else, enjoy the time. Thank you.
Thank you.